Shout Factory TV, changing the channel.
Well, I am glad that everyone was able to join us for this week because there may not be a next week if everything I hear on the internet is true and that the world is coming to an end and that Marvel not coming to San Diego Comic-Con this year might mean the end of everything as we know it. Joining me this week is, of course, my co-host, Jennifer Landa.
Hello, thanks for having me back.
Hey, Jen. And then our special guest this week, he is a comic book creator of Love and Capes. He is a podcaster, the host of Comics Assembled, which you can find on iTunes. And he's got new projects to talk about, as well as having written some My Little Pony stuff. So if you're a pony fan, he's one of your guys. Please welcome Thom Zhan.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Hey, Tom. All right, so you guys, oh my God. There's a rumor going around that Comic-Con may not have one of the two big comic publishers, Marvel Comics. This was dropped in a tweet by James Gunn when someone asked if he was going to be there this year, and he said that since Marvel's not going, he may not go either. Tom, you've been going to Comic-Con for a very long time. What does this mean for Comic-Con attendees?
I don't know how much of a difference it makes. If Marvel itself doesn't show up, they've actually done that before. In 2003, they went down to 2 card tables and were just set up so they could do signings. But at this point, Marvel is able to do their own sort of announcements. You saw them do that with the cinematic universe, where it becomes like an Apple keynote event, and then they can control the media cycle themselves. And I could definitely see them heading in that direction. I suspect that Marvel Comics will still be there, but that Marvel Studios might not have a presence. I don't know if that'll affect the size of the Marvel booth or if they'll try to consolidate any spaces, but that's a big thing that I see happening.
Is there really anything for them to talk about? What with the Avengers coming out before Comic-Con, and then you've got other titles that are coming out around, in 2015, but there's certainly nothing for them to have these big anchor panels on. Jen?
Yeah, I agree. I happened to go to the panel last year, the Marvel panel, and it was really cool, seeing all the Avengers there and having a Q&A. I think everyone was hoping for a really big announcement, and they simply announced that Guardians of the Galaxy was getting a sequel, which the movie hadn't even come out yet, the first movie, so it was kind of a little bit of a letdown for fans. I just think that, we've seen this happen before, back in 2011. Marvel Studios did not have any panels at Hall H. In fact, the big thought went to an indie film called Knights of Badassdom with Peter Dinklage. So, they still had Chris Evans do, I think, a signing at Marvel Studios booth inside on the con floor, but it's not the end of the world. I'm sure they'll have some sort of presence. They just won't be in Hall H.
You watch your mouth, Jen. It is the end of the world if I've ever seen it. Does this mean that DC Comics or the DC universe will get to reign supreme over Comic-Con this year, Tom?
Oh, I think DC would step right up into that. If there's a void, they're going to be the ones to jump into it. And to be honest, DC kind of needs it because they can't coast on their past successes the way that Marvel can. They can, if them having Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot and Jason Momoa, I think would be the kind of thing that the Avengers panel used to be.
Yeah.
And I think that has not come out yet. It would drive the audience towards it in the way that the Marvel panels used to when they had that big thing in USA Today of all the Avengers showing up when they announced they were doing the movie, and the announcement that Ruffalo was playing the Banner.
Mm-hmm. apparently what I'm hearing is that no one will really be heartbroken if Marvel isn't necessarily represented in the big panels of Comic-Con 2015.
Yeah, I agree with Tom. I think that DC would be silly to not step up to the plate. I think we want to see some footage from Batman v Superman. I'd love to see the Suicide Squad cast assemble on stage, or Jason Momoa as a quick appearance as Aquaman. That would be so cool and create the buzz that I think that DC kind of needs right now. I mean, Marvel has, as we talked about, D23 Expo. They've done stuff at New York Comic Con before. Of course, their big Phase 3 announcement at the El Capitan Theater. They don't necessarily need San Diego Comic Con, I think.
And kind of why would you? If you want your thing to get a little more traction, you almost need to move it outside there. I know that I don't announce any projects at Comic Con because I'm going to get buried by the much bigger announcements.
That's true. Is the Marvel formula something that other companies should be looking to consider? The having their own press events that are really big announcements, similar to the Phase 3 announcement that they had at the El Capitan. Is that the sort of thing that we're going to see a lot more companies doing, do you think?
I would imagine so. It just gives them so much more control over when they can listen, how much they want to divulge and share. They can maybe tease stuff at the conventions, like a little bit of footage or have a signing of some sort, but then they have a big press release on their own. They can time that so that they are really making huge headlines. So it's a huge advantage.
I mean, we know how hard it is to get a hotel room at Comic-Con.
Right.
First-class hotel rooms for the entire Avengers crew. That's a lot harder than doing it at the El Capitan Theater 3 weeks later, when it's a lot easier to make that happen.
Well, that's an excellent point. They have now gotten to the point where this franchise has become so big, you can't bring the entire cast down anymore. You can't do any of that you used to do, because now you're not just bringing down Iron Man and Cap and you are now bringing everyone who's ever been in a Marvel franchise, from Matt Salinger all the way down. Like, it's just, they're all coming.
It's all connected.
What does this mean for Comic-Con in general? When you've got Marvel Comics not coming, what message does that actually say? Forget about the MCU or the DC movie universe. What does it say about San Diego Comic-Con when Marvel Comics is not coming?
Because if Marvel Comics doesn't come, not the studios, but if the comics doesn't come, that's going to be huge. Already, it's becoming harder and harder to do or get a portfolio review at conventions. When I started doing San Diego, you were there to try to get your work noticed and picked up by companies, and Marvel is pretty much now employing you if you've been employed somewhere else. They don't need to do the massive portfolio reviews. They can scale down. I think if Marvel Comics were to pull out of San Diego Comic-Con, it would be a bellwether that San Diego Comic-Con has 2 words in its name that it doesn't need anymore.
Right.
And I don't see that happening. I think they'll want a place to show off merch or show off what's coming next. And at a lot of their booths, Marvel's been selling merchandise, which hasn't happened for one of the big publishers in a long time. Image and IDW and Boom all sell product. But if you go to the DC table, there's nothing you can buy. There's lots of stuff in glass cases that you're hoping will eventually go on sale. But there's nothing for you to purchase. And Marvel's selling glasses and T-shirts, and I could see them scaling that down just because of how expensive it is to have that big a booth at that show.
So who will be at Comic-Con? At least I'm making the gamble. You've heard it here first. If you want to actually reference this video, this is where you can link it back to. Surely Sony is going to be talking Ghostbusters, because God knows everyone else is right now. Jen, you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago when we talked about Paul Feig's reboot and the fact that it looked like it was going to be a female-driven cast. And then, what was it, yesterday? There was a weird bombshell that dropped that suggested that Sony, too, might be trying the Marvel studio, or the Marvel formula, which now DC is kind of trying to do, and that's creating as big a universe as humanly possible with the Ghostbusters franchise. For those that didn't hear, it was sort of announced and then backed up a little bit by interviews with like Reitman. Devin Faraci had an interesting follow-up that dove in a little bit more over at Badass Digest, where they discussed the almost an extension of that female-driven Ghostbusters cast, that there's the possibility of Channing Tatum and yes, even Chris Pratt joining yet another mega franchise. What would this do to this news that you've already been hearing about Paul Feig? Jen?
I was very confused, and I thought, how could they do this? It seems like they're just saying, oh, just kidding. That female-centric Ghostbusters film that you guys were excited about, that's not the real Ghostbusters film. This is the real one with Chris Pratt and what's his name? Channing Tatum. Thank you. But I think when I started to remember, we actually found out through the Sony leak back in December that Channing Tatum and the Russo brothers had been pitching a Ghostbuster movie to Sony back in August of last year. And there was actually some discussion amongst the executives about whether or not Paul Feig's Ghostbusters movie could coexist alongside a Channing Tatum movie. And the consensus was, yes, it can. And the reason being, like you said that they want to do more of like an expanded universe, so that it's not just about Ghostbusters, but it's like supernatural, sci-fi comedies and whatnot. I am excited, actually. I think the Russo brothers are a choice as directors. They have a background in comedy with directing things like Arrested Development, Happy Endings, other big TV shows. I think Chris Pratt and Channing Tatum would be hilarious together. So I don't think that this diminishes the news of the female-centric Ghostbusters. I just think that the Deadline writer that wrote that 8-worthy title saying it was guy-centric, that was actually pretty bad. Yeah. I think that he did that on purpose to get people riled up. So
it worked. Tom, are you any more excited about a guy-centric Ghostbusters reboot than you would have been a female-centric Ghostbusters reboot?
No. Just because there's a lot of me that doesn't need to see a Ghostbusters reboot. Now, if you're going to do it as an all-female cast, I think that's interesting. If you're going to start announcing multiple Ghostbusters films, every iteration gets less and less interesting. And then the question is, how far do you go? I mean, is there going to be an Air Bud version where they're all played by dogs? And each one dilutes the whole... I've never seen Ghostbusters as needed to being that sort of huge franchise expanded universe kind of thing. I don't know why they did it, and I don't know why they announced it this way. I mean, I like the people involved. I certainly like Cleveland's old Russo brothers doing a film, but there's nothing about it that makes me go, oh, this is the one I want to see. At least the female version had something different that the first one did. I don't think I needed to see a male reboot of Ghostbusters, period. I want to see the original cast back, which sadly is not quite an option anymore. But that would have been interesting to me if everybody came back together rather than, getting a new group of people to do something derivative of something that was kind of a classic.
Well, and it kind of reminds me of, the original pitch that Aykroyd had back in the day, which was that the Ghostbusters were one franchise of an already established industry. And everyone, or a lot of people, know the famous bit that, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was to appear as early as the first third of the film. So it scares me that when you've got something that is that big and that broad that there's a reason why they decided to make it smaller, and it wasn't simply because of the technology of the day. They actually created a much better, tighter film, and now they're talking about making it bigger again. And I worry about that, especially given Sony's track record with franchises in the past few years. So we'll have to see for sure what ends up coming out of the Ghostbusters expanded universe. I never thought I would hear that.
Yeah, like Tom said, we don't need this. I mean, when it's all said and done, we didn't need the reboot of the Ghostbusters. I mean, it's cool. I'm excited for the female-centric Ghostbusters film, but we don't need these remakes of these classics, and certainly not like 4 more films of the Ghostbusters franchise. I don't know. I like the classics. What can I say?
But I'd like to see someone do something new in a different area. Ghostbusters, Back to the Future. War games. You don't need to remake those. Those are just fine the way they are.
Are you suggesting that you would like to maybe? Was that a little hint that maybe there is a War Games remake somewhere in you, Tom? Like, was that because we've heard about some reboots of some of these other franchises? I think I'm hearing that you want to tackle War Games.
There is no War Games reboot in me that I can talk about.
That's fair. Well, I'm very excited to see what ends up coming out of this. Who knew that we would continue? We've done 3 roundtables so far. Who knew that we would continue to talk about Ghostbusters and Chris Pratt, who basically started out our roundtable discussions. It all comes back around. Thanks, guys, for joining me. Jen, as always, it's been a pleasure. Please tell the good folks at home where they can find you online.
You can find me on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/JenniferLanda or on Twitter at JenniferLanda.
And Tom, what have you got coming up?
IDW just announced my new project coming out right in time for Comic-Con. It's because I will be exhibiting at Comic-Con. The rumors that I am pulling out are not true. I will totally be there. Called Long Distance, about a couple having a long-distance relationship. It's another romantic comedy. And I'll be there with Love and Capes and My Little Pony. So you can find me at Twitter at Thom Zhan, and you can find me at my website, thomz.com.
Sweet. Thank you guys for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to talking to you both. Hold on a second. Let me re-record that.
Really, Selby, I want to talk to you again.
I know. That was a trial run. Thanks, guys. We really appreciate you joining us. Looking forward to talking to you again both very soon. Keep your ears out for more news. As for the rest of you, let us know what you think about these topics down in the comments below in our Shout Factory Roundtable. And I swear we're going to come up with a really good title for that one day. Maybe you can come up with a really good title for our roundtable. Again, put it down in the comments below. Let us know what you think, and maybe if we choose your title, you'll get something special. I don't know. We'll see. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.